Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Viltrox 28mm f4.5 for L mount. This has been a surprising little lens and I have gotten some excellent results with it. Now if you're new to the channel, my name is Chris and I'm a photographer out of Denver, Colorado. So let's take a look at this little $99 piece of joy right now. So first of all, let me get this right out of the way. Viltrox did send me this lens and let me keep it. However, they don't get any say in the editorial of this video, but I don't think that's really going to be a problem because I'm about to gush about this lens. Have you ever noticed that when you see a thumbnail on YouTube, when they're talking about the Panasonic Lumix S9, they always show it without a lens on it? I think they do this for a couple of reasons. First of all, they want to show that it is a full frame camera. And I also think they want to show how small the camera is. But the truth is, you can't really show how small the camera is when you're using one of Panasonic's own lenses on the camera. There simply weren't good lenses for it. Fortunately, that problem is being solved. Not only have manufacturers like TT Artisans come out with a 40mm f2, but Panasonic themselves came out with a 40mm f2 lens, and now we have this Viltrox 28mm f4.5. Let me get into some expectations I had when Viltrox asked me if I would review this versus the reality I have. So my expectation wasn't very high. Just on first glance at this lens, you see a very plasticky body and you know, it's $99. How good could it possibly be? So it's almost worth playing around with at $99, but I don't feel that my expectations were high. I thought it would be more like a toy camera, something like one of those cameras you grab at the gas station and go take photos with. It has this very small opening for the lens. Not only is it a fixed aperture, but you can't manually focus this lens. I didn't really think of this as being a very serious lens, but a couple of things happened. The first one was when you put this on here, all of a sudden this camera turns into a more point and shoot device. This is pretty cool. I must admit, this is like pretty eye-opening for me. I went from having a problem with the missing EVF to not having a problem with the missing EVF simply because the lens changed the dynamics of the camera. It's so small and so lightweight now, it just really brings out the magic of this small camera body. Just making it fun to hold and just making the device itself sort of spring to action, that simply isn't enough. The photos need to be good. I was going to say that this would probably be soft in the corners. At f4.5, it's not the fastest lens, and I didn't think that it would perform well in low light or any of those situations, and pretty much all of my expectations were blown apart. Now, a lot of the things that I see in the photos, there's detail edge to edge, corner to corner. There's no vignetting. There's no weird distortions. Everything looks the way I expect it to look coming out of a 28mm. So whether I'm doing landscape work or I'm driving around shooting rural buildings and old, decayed homes, or whether I'm in town doing street photography, all of these things work exactly to my expectations. They look good coming right out of the camera. So I started using a real-time LUT called Ontario. That's one of my color LUTs that I use. And then I have my own style, which is not a LUT. It's just a style that I base off of one of the in-camera profiles. And then I add my own contrast and everything to it. I thought both of those in conjunction with one another worked really well in my tests so far. The only thing that I have noticed is there's some strong starburst activity, which I'm not really sure how that works with a lens that doesn't have moving aperture blades. This is far from a toy lens. This is far from a gimmick. It feels more like it just opened up the S9 to more possibilities. So when I took my camera downtown, I didn't mean for this to happen, but it was the day of the Pride Parade. And I was downtown to do some street photography, and there were a bunch of people setting up for the Pride Parade, which gave me a lot more subjects than I typically see downtown Denver on a Sunday morning. And it performed beautifully. What's that? Oh, no, thank you. Can I take a picture?
Of course.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. No, I appreciate what you're doing. And there were just so many people and so much color for me to take photos of. That was like the best part. I really like how small the camera is. I really like how unobtrusive this package is. You know, when you're walking around taking photos, you have it on silent mode. You can really just enjoy the art of street photography, of noticing. I didn't really feel like I stood out too much. The whole thing just really played into my favor. It was a really, really great way to see how this lens performed. And I think it performed beautifully. Another thing that I really want to mention, and I've been trying to say this, I've actually said it in several different videos. This is not my first take of this video. I just want to express how cool it is that my YouTube channel has now grown to a level that vendors want to work with me. Viltrox wanted to reach out and put their lens on my channel. I think that's very exciting. This is an exciting place to be as an early YouTuber. But I also want to thank my fellow YouTubers. You know, on Sunday morning before I went out, I watched two videos, one by Noah Kalim and his Hotline show. In his video, he explained why f4 is typically the aperture he finds his most pleasing work. And I thought that was very interesting because one of the talking points I was going to make about this lens is that it's at f4.5, and that's not really an aperture I use very often. I usually jump from 2.8 up to 5.6, that kind of close, but I still want a little separation work. I thought f5.6 was my sweet spot. It was very interesting to see his take on his video. And then I watched another video by Jared Z. He took his OM system camera into Chicago, and it was a really upbeat video and very uplifting. And it just made me realize that I'm doing YouTube and I want to enjoy doing this. His energy sort of rubbed off on me, and that's why I even went downtown in the first place, which is why I was able to be at that parade setup and get all those wonderful photos. So I just want to thank the YouTube community as well. And then, of course, I want to thank my audience and people who watch these videos. I really appreciate your comments and your likes. And I can't believe that I get to do this, and I just really enjoy it. So I just have a lot of gratitude towards this whole experience, and I just wanted to voice that. There are a couple of drawbacks to this lens that I have discovered. The minimum focus distance is 1.05 feet. That is not a very close focusing distance. And when you have a really wide angle lens like one of these, there's a strong desire to get close to things because you are so wide. Sometimes you want to get very close to the subject in order to sort of capture that subject and get a little separation behind them. And unfortunately, this is not good at close focusing. So a little over a foot is how far you have to be. The other thing I noticed, and I think it might be related to the first, is that when you are autofocusing, if you use the zone focus in the center of the LCD and you're moving it around with your finger and you land on something you like, if there's something just behind your subject, the focus will try to focus on the thing behind it. And then if there's any other drawback, it may be that the sun star effect is not your cup of tea and you just really don't like that ultra flared look. That could be a drawback as well. But at $99, these drawbacks are really small nitpicks. This is a $99 US lens. I mean, I don't know for $99 if you can get this kind of image quality out of any other lens. I mean, Viltrox is really bringing the heat here. And you know, if I go back to the idea of my expectations versus reality, I don't know why my expectations were so low. My experience with Viltrox so far has been two lenses, the 13mm f1.4 for Fujifilm and the 75mm f1.2 Pro for Fujifilm. And both of those lenses were fantastic. I should have known that Viltrox just makes good lenses. I guess that's my review. There's not a whole lot to talk about when the aperture's fixed, when the manual focus is unavailable. All you have to really look at are the photos, and I think my photos really speak volumes. My thanks again to Viltrox for sending me this wonderful little lens, and my thanks again to you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please remember to give it a thumbs up. That does help the channel. And as always, I thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.